I think it's time to start. Okay, thank you everybody for attending this session about some tips and warnings about moving away from being a developer and leading teams. So first, I'd like to uh, ask you a question. How could you raise your hand, the people who is somehow leading a team? So it's kind of lead developer or technical lead or something like that? Okay. For the other people who didn't raise their hand, who is maybe open to be a team leader eventually? Okay. So, and could you raise your hand, everybody that has already raised the hand in any of the two situations, to check if everybody is already a leader or is open to be a leader eventually? So, okay. So most of you, thank you very much. So let me introduce a bit myself. My name is Alvaro. Um, I have two kids, Daniela and Estela, and my wife is called Ines. I work in Factorial.io. I'm the backend people lead. My position is in the middle of the technical team and the HR. So basically, my daily life is with people. That's the reason why I'm the people lead. So, and also I'm in the board of the Spanish Drupal Association since, I remember, 2016 or so very long time. So this talk gives you some tips and warnings about what happens when you do not develop so much, and then you are just leading teams. In short, it's the first sentence. Sometimes I really feel like a retired superhero. I remember those days when I was doing my stuff, and then suddenly an urgent ticket came to my inbox, and it was like, hey, super urgent. And you read, and it's like, okay, the customer is editing the content, but it's not visible in the website. And then you think what happens, and then you realize, hey, I forgot to put my cache context. So then you go to the production website with your admin superhero superpowers, and then press the clear cache button, and then everything seems to work. And then this feeling, it's like, oh, and then, oh, you saved the day. Now the customer is happy because the content is there. That when you are leading teams, it's not so easy that this kind of feeling happens so often. Because now I code really less than before. Also, it's about writing documents most of the time, having meetings most of the time. So it's completely different. Even this dopamine you feel every time you get a ticket and then graph into the done column. Yeah, it's not so often because you are doing tasks every day, but are not so easy to understand when it's done, when it's not, because yeah, you don't have acceptance criteria so often, and it's much different. Also, it's super hard to keep everything under control because you don't know exactly sometimes what's happening, what is going to happen. You cannot plan your day because different topics come to your inbox when you don't expect them. So to explain different domains, I don't know how many of you know these two people. Please raise your hand who knows both. Okay, first one is Mr. Wolf from the movie Pulp Fiction. Probably you remember, there's a scene where they kill somebody in the car and then they do a big mess because everything is plenty of blood, and then they call someone to clean the mess, and he knows exactly what to do because he has been in that situation many of times. But the other person is from the series Dr. House. Basically, his character is famous for finding the illness with no clues. And at the end, it's always lupus, a very rare disease. But the point is, he doesn't know what's happening, but he finds a solution. So that's the difference between a consultant, who is Mr. Wolf. Mr. Wolf is a consultant, knows everything. When they call in the movie, he says, I'm 30 minutes away, I'll be there in 50, or something like that. So because he knows the traffic, he knows how much time times to arrive to the right place. He knows everything. He knows the steps to accomplish the success. But Dr. House doesn't. He's just using sometimes his own intuition. Sometimes he has a deep knowledge in the bottom of his brain that uses to solve problems. On a more scientific explanation, there is a framework to set the problems. It's the Canevin framework. The pronunciation is different than the writing by Dave Snowden. And basically, he says there are two kinds of problems: predictable problems and unpredictable problems. And in the area of predictable projects, we have the clear problems. So we exactly know what's the issue, what the cause, and what the effect. So if I drop my glass of water, it will break. It will break. Also, we have complicated problems where we know what we don't know. For example, the cash issue. So when I receive the ticket on the example I gave before, I didn't know exactly what was happening, but I have built the cache myself. I can check where is the cache system, if there is any missing tag, so I can just check what I have to check in order to fix the issue. But if we go to the left side, we have the complex problems where we know what's happening, but we don't know why it's happening. Even more, we don't know what we don't know or what we need to know. So for example, imagine we have a Drupal site and we have an issue, but we don't have access to the code. That's a complex issue because we don't know what's happening in the background and we don't have any mechanism to know what's happening. So yeah, that's a complex issue. And also we have the chaotic situations where we don't know what's happening in the background. We don't know what's happening. We don't know the cause. We don't know the effect. We know nothing. So we need to investigate everything. So it's super different when you are working as a developer because most of the issues are on the right side are predictable. So you can somehow reproduce the bug on your local, so you can find it. You can use your experience in order to find, okay, this is the cache tag, I forgot to put it, because you have a clear result and you can find a methodology to investigate what's happening. But when you're working with people, most of the issues are on the left side. So it's unpredictable. And sometimes you don't know what's happening because people are super complex. And sometimes you can't even ask more than you are allowed because we are in the professional domain. So maybe there are some issues that are based on some personal issues and you are not allowed to ask these kind of issues. Another example of complex problems, because on my eyes, things that are related to people are complex problems most of the times, is trying to predict the future. This is a picture from a magazine on the mid-50s, last century, and this is how they predict the mail service will be in our century, in the 21st century. It's a rocket man with flying, and then he's handing on the letters. They had no clue about emails, about WhatsApp, about mobile phones, and this is what they predicted. So it's super hard. But on the other hand, this is how they predict the work will be. This is pretty close. about what we are doing right now. And this is because when you are trying to fix or complex problems, you need to read the signals. The future, it's impossible to completely predict, but you can see some signals and then interpret them. So the difficult part is be able to read the signals and then distinguish the good signals with the noise. Good. More things about being a manager. Manager work involves completely different way of thinking. This is a piece of conversation, real conversation, some months ago I had with John, one of the project managers at Factorial. He was asking me about if I finished a feature, and then I say yes in the beginning, and then he told me nice, but what's it mean for the topic with root domain or cookie domain? Because I had 2 tickets to fix. And I said, yes. And I completely blow his mind and say, hey, 2 options, what, what you did? And then I realized my mistake. I say, okay, but this is an OR. So on the Boolean algebra or on an if condition, if any of them is yes to all, no, isn't it? So yeah, so this is just a joke. That's a real conversation, but the point is we think differently when we are developing and when we are working with people, because it needs different skills, and it also needs a completely different way of thinking, because you don't have all the domain when you are talking with people. And it's also needed to keep in mind that it's not possible to reset a relationship. So when you have an issue with somebody else, or when you are not getting on well with somebody, it's super hard to change the momentum of your relationship. So you need to be really careful about how you treat everybody every day. Because okay, if you do a mess on your module, you can always reset your branch and start from scratch. That's not possible with people. And also it's super needed to keep in mind the cultural differences. Because, for example, in Factorial, we are placed in different countries with different cultures. We are from Spain. Some of us are from Spain. We are super touchy, super sometimes, and some people that doesn't like that. So you can create an issue because of your culture and not taking in mind that there are different cultures. Also, when you are a manager, most of the work involves communication. In theory, software developers also need to communicate a lot, because otherwise you can fix the wrong problem. I have a good friend that says that 90% of software development is communication, is try to understand the issue, seek for the people having the issue, and then fix the issue. But that's the less of the work. But when you are doing communication with other people because you are leading the team, it's super important. I tried to summarize in those 3 points. You need to read the signals, because people don't always tell you the truth, or at least all the truth. So sometimes you need to figure out that something is happening, but you cannot make assumptions. Sometimes you need to ask directly. You don't need to ask all the details, but sometimes you need to know if somebody is having issues, if somebody is, I don't know, has any factors on his life that may affect their work, because that can completely break your team. And you don't need to go too personal, because everybody has their own life. But sometimes it's good to know that something is happening in the background. That could be maybe a change on the performance, maybe a change on the performance for the good. It's a signal that something wrong is happening with that person, because he's using the work as the escape from their life. And it's super good to keep in mind that people behave on very different ways. And also keep in mind that sometimes you need to have uncomfortable conversations. Because when things are fine, when everybody's good, everything is good, but when something wrong is happening, you need to talk about that. And this is part of your work as a leader. Being positive, trying to provide good feedback, and when the feedback is not so good, you also have to give feedback in the most direct and clear way to make the other person understand the problem. But yeah, problems need to be addressed. And also about set expectations is super needed to have clear expectations. What we do in Factorial is we define expectations as user stories. For example, for backend developers, we set a lot of user stories. For example, as a front-end developer, I need from the backend developer, blah, blah, blah. As a project manager, I expect from the backend developer, ABC, track the time on time, ask the ticket, these kind of things. So we set those kind of expectations on a really clear way using as user stories for different levels. For junior developers, we have some expectations. For mid-level developers, other expectations, and so on. But setting the expectations clearly beforehand is super important. Otherwise, people just don't know what is expected from them. Also, I don't know if you know this story about Chesterton's fence. Somebody knows about it? Raise your hand. Okay, I'm going to tell you this story because it's super useful, not only for leading, also for developing. Chesterton's bought a house in the countryside with a super big yard, and then one day he was walking on his yard and he found a fence in the middle of the yard. And it was super bad for him because he couldn't go from his whole yard, and yeah, it was in the middle of the yard. So he decided to remove the fence when he was just started living there. And after a couple of months, then a lot of cows came into his yard and then go into his house, and it was a complete mess. So what's the moral of this story? It's Chesterton should not remove that yard before investigate a bit about why was this this fence there. So until you remove that fence, something that is annoying you, you need to know why it's there. That applies to the code. If you find, I don't know, some code that seems too old, nobody's executing that, you need to find who wrote that code and then ask, hey, why you did this? What's the aim of this code? Because this code, maybe they are fixing something, and if you remove the code, you still have the problem. You can maybe fix on a different way, but you need to understand what is fixing that code. That also applies to leadership, because sometimes you become the leader of a team, and then you find a lot of rules that maybe seem stupid. For example, dailies. I don't like dailies. I like dailies, but let's imagine I don't like dailies. And then I'm the leader of the team, and as I don't like dailies, I'm going to remove the dailies. So for the first couple of weeks, everything goes fine. Everybody has more time for code, so we code faster. But after 2 weeks, it happens that nobody knows what other people is doing. Nobody knows if somebody needs help. Nobody knows anything about the project. So I have removed a fence, and I have bring back some problems that were fixed by that fence. So yeah, that's for leadership, but also for your daily life as a developer. Yeah, we are coming to the end because this is a short talk. How do you know if you fit into the manager role? From my point of view, nobody fits at the very beginning because as I said, you may be a super senior developer, but you are a junior as a manager at the very beginning. And it requires completely different skill set, as I said. So I summarize in several questions. Is how good you develop in complex and uncertain situations? Because being a manager is all about don't know what's happening most of the time. If you are a super good manager and you have everything under control, probably you don't know you don't have everything under control because people is complex. How good you are at putting yourself in another person's shoes, because I mean, this is all about understanding other people, trying to understand their issues, what motivates other people, what inspires other people, and then try to encourage people to follow their own way. Also listening. If you cannot be in a conversation and really understand other people, maybe you don't fit into the manager role. Or maybe you will be a super bad manager because it's all about others. And also about putting the interest of the group above of the individuals. Sometimes you need to do changes that are good for the group, but not so good for the individuals, even for yourself. So that's something that you need to do when you are a leader. And also facilitating other people's work. The stars, the main workforce of our companies are the developers, and you are not a developer anymore. You are there to support developers, to let them to do their work as best as possible. So basically your job is facilitate developers' job, at least on my case. So you don't shy as you used to shy when you were a developer and you close a lot of tickets for the customer and you fix a lot of bugs for the customer and you contribute a lot of your code. That's not your role anymore. So you need to support other people to do that. So that's some questions to maybe understand how much do you fit on this manager role. And also, does it worth? That's a good question. Okay, my advice to everybody is don't do this only for the money, because okay, as a manager, maybe you can earn more money, but as a developer, you can earn more money. As a good developer, you can earn more money that you could earn as a bad manager. So, on my eyes, the money should not be the main reason. Also, you need to give a try. If you don't know if maybe it's a good role for you, you can just try, and maybe you realize you are good at being a leader, or maybe you realize that's not your life. But you need to give a try, and don't chicken run on the first failure, because you need some space to failure. Because remember, you are a junior manager, not a senior manager. Maybe when you are working as a developer for a large number of years, you are in the role of doing a lot of things super good. But when you become a manager, you are a junior manager, so you need your space to fail. And then, if coding makes you super happy, yeah, maybe it doesn't worth to do this switch. Yeah, maybe, only maybe. That's basically the content I have for you. So if you have any question, I know it's late. Please keep in mind it's my second talk on a Drupal Dev Day, so please don't be too strict with me. But yeah, if you have any question. Yeah, one question over there.
Just to ask you if you were more happy coding or you're more happy now managing, just that, and why? In your case, not general.
It depends. I'm going to be super honest with you. I miss my days as a developer. I really miss that. And I didn't stop coding at all. But when I have a lot of work as a people lead, because we have to prepare personal development for people. So maybe I don't code for 2 months. I miss that life. And to be super honest, my role is, I like my role, and I really enjoy being a people lead. But yeah, if I back to coding, I'll be happy also. So yeah, to be honest, it depends on the day. The day I have a lot of issues and I don't know how to fix them, I think, okay, I want to go back to coding and stop having these kind of problems. But the day that everything goes well and the team, and you realize the team is performing super well, they are learning, they are proposing talks to dev days, and we have done 5 sessions in Drupal dev days, the team. So when I see these effects, I don't know how much my work has affected this result, but I feel proud of that, to be honest. And on those moments, I love my life, but in other moments, I miss coding because I'm now a developer. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I agree with you. I mean, I'm a similar situation. I still code. I'm now architecting. I think it's good to have a coding background, also to be managing, no? Because you can more easily and better match with the developers, and still don't miss that connection. No?
Yeah.
It's always good to have the opportunity to go back eventually.
Yeah, I'm trying to fill that gap with the contributions, because contributions is a good opportunity to take something, and yeah. Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, so to finalize, some takeaways. It's a summary of everything. Managing people tend to be unpredictable and complex. The required skill set is not the same as the required skill set for being a developer. It's needed to give yourself some room to safety fail. So at the end of the day, everybody fails. So it's not so bad if you make a mistake because you are a junior manager. At the end of the day, have fun, try to be happy in your daily work, whatever you are doing. So thank you very much for your attention. I'll put this talk in Twitter right after when it ends, and yeah, thanks a lot. Can applause.